let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble, of course, we will unpause and repause. Obviously, Vulcus the First. Dick saves a lot of money on toilet paper with me in the vicinity. I make out with his chocolate-plastered starfish like it's my wife. Alrighty then, my dude. Or dudette, I'm not 100% sure. But, yeah. We will be talking about some news. Mostly this is going to be a Bantz stream, so I'm just going to ramble about things. There isn't actually, there's a lot of news, but it's a lot of B-sides. So it's basically like looking through an album collection, and some of the music is really good, but none of it really got popularized or something like that. That's basically what we're working with. We do have the Epstein files and things like that. We will talk about that. But I really don't want to pound a dead horse to death, because at this point, it's kind of gotten a little bit old. Astronaut's wife admits, by the way, this is a lesbian couple, admits to lying about spouse committing first crime in space on 3-month mission. It turns out that the actual first crime that came from people involved with space exploration was actually a false accusation about accessing a bank account. This, by a lesbian couple, by the way. This is absolutely hilarious, so we'll be looking into that particular story. Anti-Islam protesters and Muslims clash in Dearborn, Michigan. I did talk about this earlier. This is actually a fairly big thing, because when you think about it, when you've got officers that are quite clearly Islamic, and they're not willing to respond to a call, they're not willing to do anything when a person is being victimized, simply because the person is disrespecting their religion. If this were like a Christian community and this happened, all the federal courts would be pouring in like, on day one. There'd be so many lawyers there, it'd be like a goddamn army of lawyers. They would be wetting their teeth on this particular case. But because it happens to do with Islam, nobody's really doing anything about it, it seems. This is many such cases mode. Scathing report calls on U.S. to label Islamist group infiltrating all aspects of American life as a terrorist organization. Texas Governor Greg Abbott recently declared the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. By the way, I agree with this particular designation. They have engaged in terroristic acts on a number of occasions, actually. Then we have Inkformation Rome. A 2,000-year-old Roman inkwell found in Portugal contains a technological recipe that should not exist. The Romans were a lot more sophisticated than a lot of people believe. We're going to talk about wind-based power systems, water wheels, pumps, things of that nature. We're going to love on ancient Rome. The Dashing Rogue. Happy Thanksgiving! Make sure you don't deep fry the bird before letting it thaw. Also, eat a leg for the bird that died that you may eat. I really, really like Thanksgiving turkey. I'm not a big fan of any other kind of turkey. Some people will use like pressed turkey and they'll add like mayonnaise to it on a sandwich. I don't understand this. It's apparently it's like, cheap white person food or something like that. There's whole jokes about this. No, thank you. Cunt, 19360. Don't be a pedo on Thanksgiving. Well, Epstein's dead, so thankfully there's one less of them around here. Last beacon. Spiraling in midair saying, gay vampire, gay vampire, gay vampire. Haha. That's what I'm talking about. We like memes on this channel. I'm a little bit congested at the moment. Unfortunately, I appear to have suffered some sort of chest injury. I'm not exactly sure exactly what it is. Crusty white bread. Epstein's in protective custody. Yeah, no, he's dead, but he did not kill himself. Absolutely, he was assassinated. There was a reason for this, by the way. We don't know who exactly was behind it, though, because if you look at the client list, it's at least hundreds of names long, and every single person on that list had a reason to want him dead. That's pretty formidable. That's a lot of people with collectively hundreds of billions of dollars, possibly trillions. We're not 100% sure. So, yes, we'll be talking about the lesbian astronauts. The fact that in Dearborn, apparently, if you're not a Muslim, you're not protected by the law. This is being tolerated by the current administration in a move that I can only say is absolutely insane. What they should be doing is pouring some ICE agents in there. I bet that a lot of those cops are also illegally in the country. Just saying, I have a feeling. Nordic pagan soldier, every single time. Mel Gibson. By the way, The Patriot, great movie with Mel Gibson. You should absolutely watch that. It is an excellent film. One of the all-time movies ever made, actually, more than anything else. In fact, maybe I'll watch The Patriot later. Or Gettysburg. That's another good war movie. I don't know. I have to be in the right movie, in the right mood, to watch war movies. But when I do get into that mood, yeah, The Patriot, Gettysburg, others from World War II especially, those are my go-tos. The Longest Day. Oh, and also, Sink the Bismarck. That was a good one. And that's a British movie, actually. The Bismarck was a heavily clad warship that moved out from Germany. And it managed to break out into the shipping lanes. And they had to take that out. And there was a whole rigmarole about that. It's a very, very stereotypically British movie with like the can-do, hey, I've got my macaroni and I've got my SpaghettiOs right now. I'm perfectly fine. That sort of movie. So, yeah, most people would probably like it. It's a little bit of humor mixed with the extreme gore. Ministry of Wrongthink. Remove Epstein entirely from the situation. How is a member of Congress even allowed to be fed questions to ask defendants via text? How is that okay? Yeah, exactly. It's not okay. Patchy, we can't expect Trump and the feds to do anything. At what point will the right eventually take action? The left never waits, the right just complains. Well, they're both acting basically the same right now. They've both got vendettas, and they've both got potential winning issues, but they're not taking them up. The Democrats are acting like the Republicans usually act. I don't know what the hell is going on. Honestly, in all of my time as a political analyst, I can't tell you of a time that's more confusing than the one that we're currently in with regards to political responses. I'm trying to make sense of it. I am largely failing at this particular endeavor. Astronaut's wife admits to lying about spouse committing first crime in space on 3-month mission. Yes, indeed. Summer Heather Worden, a former Air Force intelligence officer, pleaded guilty to lying to law enforcement after she previously alleged her ex-wife, because she's a lesbian, so they were scissoring. Keep in mind, they put their pussies together and, pissed on each other, I guess. Anne McClain committed the first crime in outer space. Outer space is generally crime-free because there aren't a lot of humans up there. When there aren't a lot of humans, there aren't a lot of perversions happening. But she claimed that her spouse was illegally accessing her bank accounts. But they were on a joint bank account. She had been given the password, and it was only later that the password was changed after divorce and stuff like that. So she lied to the police, and it turns out that, yes, the first crime in space has been launched. The problem is that it was actually a lesbian astronaut back on Earth claiming bank fraud. I found this so fucking funny. Yeah, it's not surprising to me, it's just hilarious. Copium poppies. 1 out of 3. Progress has been made after threatening to file a chargeback against X for our year premium subscription via appeal, and our management publicly posting about doing so. Our account is restored. However, we are locked out in an attempt to coerce us into deleting the post. We are waiting to hear back on the appeal on that. They learned their lesson from the bonus holes, remember them, and block sending multiple appeals. Yeah, it takes them a while. You got to realize, one thing I will give them credit for, when you've got that little amount of staff for such a large site, it does take them a while. So give them a little bit of time. Give them a little bit of leeway. But it's completely stupid that they banned your account in the first place, so. Many such cases. Let's see. Banter, gay women from outer space. I know the reference that you're making. The gay N-words from outer space. Very great film, actually. It was made in Denmark, and it was basically nothing more than, comedy about blaxploitation films of the era. I think it was made in 92 or 93, somewhere around there. And it's actually a really, really great film. It's both very comedic and very, very telling, situationally. And apparently it was live performed. So that shows some talent that most film groups do not have. Snakes bleed red. Sticks always trying to give these millionaires an easy time on things. I do not know that which you refer to. I do not care if somebody is rich. It depends what they're doing with their money. Same is true of anyone else. Let's say that you have a decent income. You're not rich, but you're reasonably well off. If you're using your money to abuse other people and stuff like that, I will not support it. If you're using your money for your own family and or for charity purposes or something like that, to try to produce more, to try to make, I don't know, maybe you make a pickling station or something. I respect that. Copium poppies. Trump should have had the FBI raid Cheney's funeral while they were all in one place. That would have been very, very funny. I would have supported that, by the way. That would be absolutely hilarious. Let's get to our sponsors, shall we? We've got 3 of them. We have cultivated-mind.com. Oh shit, some of the mushroom pills spilled. Whoops, it was still open. You can get mushroom pills and take these for vitality. They have help with longevity and help with energy in general. Again, I've spilled a couple of them accidentally. Whoops. We've also got Doggy Dose. Doggo Dose is what I call it. That's for your dog. It's basically the same thing. It's 6 dual bioactivated mushroom extracts. And those are put into the doggy treats. And it helps them, again, with longevity, with vitality, with their joints, things like that. As well as actually slightly sedating them. So it's probably helpful. The doggo will sleep a little bit better and will not be asking to piddle on a branch at 2 o'clock in the morning. We have BiltongUSA.com. Anytime that's mentioned, of course, we have to dip into the Anton stash. I've got plenty of biltong. There will be plenty more. It's delicious. Got exports, got meat, Wagyu, Cabanassi, Angus sticks, and so forth, as well as, of course, Stick, Sex, and Hammer mugs, tumblers, and shirts. And finally, we've got jamandbean.com. That is jamnbean.com. Where you will get Clank Coffee. Right now, there's actually the, it's not the Costa Rica blend. It's the other blend. I can't remember the name of it, but it's actually on the pot as we speak. Mostly, Clank Coffee is what is consumed. Unless you're using tea, there's plenty of those as well. You can get Yunnan Jig if you want some caffeine. You can get green tea if you don't want any caffeine. And, you know, the list goes on. There's like, you know, fucking 50 different varieties. So, just take a look. Ha. Well, had Rex. Sticks telling this chat anything about mushrooms. Lol. Well, I've used psilocybin, Amanita muscaria. I've cooked, you know, herbal mushrooms, you know, just for culinary purposes. I've also used them for medicinal purposes. Yes, I know a great deal about mushrooms. Actually, I was thinking about majoring in mycology at one point. Copium poppies, mention Vanton. You know what to do. Exactly. It took 3 appeals to get unbanned. They denied the first 2. Huh. That's interesting that they would do that. I mean, Twitter has generally improved, but it's definitely a work in progress. I think that the AI, like Grok side of it, has become so large that they're focusing mainly on that. So it might take a little while. Yeah, if Anton is mentioned, we have to eat some of our stuff. With the 5 Chinese spices. Trust me, it is delicious. Now you could turn that into a dish in and of itself, probably. So yeah, apparently the first crime in space is actually a lesbian falsely claiming that her lesbian lover embezzled her bank account. This doesn't come as any surprise to me, by the way. Got some problems, my dude. When I was looking at that story, I was laughing my ass off. Because the original story is basically, hey, my wife, you know, fucked my bank account. The real story is, hey, my wife didn't do anything wrong. Actually, I was making false claims to the FBI. While I was not in space, by the way. So technically, you don't have a true crime in space at the moment. Because the secondary party appears not to have done anything actually illegal after the investigation. But you do have an astronaut that's making false claims against her lesbian lover. Sneedmeyer. Dutch government backed down over their effort to take over the Chinese semiconductor producing company Nexperia, which threatened to withhold chips that would severely impact the European-US car industry. Oh, I haven't heard about that. I'll have to look that up. Let me look that up really quick. My apologies. I have a limited space. Nexperia. Yeah, I'll just cue that up. I'll look into that later, actually. My Dixie Wrecked, yes, Bellitas. Those are very good, by the way. I have cooked them before. They grow wild out behind the house, in the woods. Lots and lots of them, depending on the year. And so I have gathered them before. They're pretty good. I think I prefer fairy ring mushrooms, but you really do have to cook them off, because if you just eat them raw, they've got that little acrid taste. It's about the same as oyster mushrooms or something. Anti-Islam protesters and Muslims clash in Dearborn, Michigan after man attempts to burn Quran. Anti-Islam activist Jake Lang also slapped the Quran with a slab of bacon, which, by the way, was fucking hilarious. If you're really worried about a bunch of dead trees that have been pressed into sheets and happen to have special scriptures on them or something like that. And you believe that it's been desecrated because someone used a bacon bookmark or something along those lines. I don't have any respect for you. Fuck Islam. I think that this should happen more often, especially in the Dearborn area. People should pour in force, and they should make it clear. The United States is not going to become some sort of retarded theocracy. It doesn't matter whether it's Christianity, Judaism, although I would note that multiple members of the Senate are dual citizens, or Islam, or anything like that. We have the right to decry your religion. If I want to take a Quran and go to a Muslim area and say, look, haha, hey everyone, and then put a slab of bacon in it as a bookmark, you don't have anything to say about it, fuck yourself. That's basically the impetus that we should be going by. I do not support Islamofascism, and that appears to be what's taking root in Dearborn, to the point where the officers, the dude's getting assaulted, quite literally, and they're not doing anything about it. They won't even respond with their badge numbers. They're literally breaking the law, which they're supposed to uphold. That's kind of the point of police officers. If they're not going to uphold the law, then people need to put on a show of force. They need to go in and they need to have their, Quran barbecue or something like that. Have a bacon barbecue. Don't even just limit it to the Quran. Put the Talmud and the Bible and stuff like that on there too, because, everyone hates pork for some reason, other than Asians. That's what you should be doing. Yeah, but screw Islam. Islam is just another religion. I don't give a shit if most of the people that follow it have brown skin, and therefore, opposing Islam for some reason is racist, I guess, or something like that. No, I do oppose Islam. Islam is retarded. It's a retarded religion. Muhammad was a retard. Muhammad went into a cave, huffed gas, literally cave gas. I mean, we can scientifically qualify this at this point, and then had hallucinations. Don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about Abraham. I don't give a shit about Joseph. I don't give a shit about any of these people. They can all suck my ass. They're all a bunch of retards, basically. They were just hallucinating, and they saw weird visions, and then religion was born, basically. Modern religion. I don't have any respect for it. I don't need to respect the Pope any more than I need to respect Muhammad. Fuck you people. Fuck them all. Go ahead and burn the Quran. Who cares? It's just a book. Go ahead and burn one of my books. It's a piece of paper, basically. It's a bunch of dead trees. I don't understand why people get so hot under the collar about these issues. According to Islamic canonical tradition, Muhammad had the Quran, compiled, right? But then Aisha, his 9-year-old wife that he totally didn't fuck until she was a bit older, her goat actually managed to get a hold of the original version of the Quran and ate several pages. So they couldn't recover it. This makes total sense. This makes just as much sense as the crap in the Bible where people are talking about how many angels there were at the sepulcher. Was it 2, 1, or none? We're not 100% sure because we've got 3 different fucking accounts of it. Judaism, same thing. Within Judaism, are you allowed to put God on trial? Because I've literally edited a work in which they put God on trial and found him guilty, and then they decided that their sins were appropriate. These are weird religions. You will find this in organized religion over and over and over again. And so I don't really have any respect for any of them, and I don't need to. Honestly, I abscond all of them. Organized religion, I believe, is a cancer. Spirituality, I believe, is perfectly fine. But you should never entangle yourself with other people. It has to be individualistic. This is the occult way. Copium poppies. We got Grok to publicly state that Muhammad was a terroristic pedophile cult leader recently after getting it to generate images of him eating bacon. Well, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, that's exactly what he was like. I'm not interested in religion. I'm really not. It has let me down over and over and over again. It's let humanity down more times than can be told. It doesn't seem to matter which organized religion it is. So I basically recoil from them all. I do believe in a spiritual world, but I don't want to prescribe some organized religion for it because a lot of aspects of it, by nature, are going to be unknown. Well, then why would you have an organized religion? It makes absolutely no sense. Especially when it's ritualistic. When you have like the stained glass windows and stuff like that. Even the low church movement. This was among Christians. This was mainly popular a couple of hundred years ago. The low church movement believed that having even a physical church beyond having literally just a little chapel with nothing in it but a couple of books, they believed that it was actually sinful. And so the low church movement developed this. This is the Book of Common Prayer. The Book of Common Prayer was released by Protestants back in, I believe, the 1800s. This copy is from the 1950s, if I remember correctly. They didn't believe in the same kind of ritualistic trappings that you have in most modern churches. Even most Protestant congregations eventually fell to ritualism. It's nothing more than Romanism. It is the same thing. Here's some wisdom for you. They practice the Psalms, mainly, more than anything else. Lead me, O Lord, in your righteousness, because of those who wait for me. Make your way straight before me. For there is no truth in their mouth. There is destruction in their heart. Their throat is an open grave. They flatter with their tongue. Declare them guilty, O God. Let them fall because of their schemes. Because of their many transgressions, cast them out. They have rebelled against you. But all who take refuge in you will be glad. They will sing out with their joy forever. You will shelter them, so that those who without name may exult in you. You, O Lord, bless the righteous, for you will defend them with your favor as with a shield. Fascinating, actually. It's the anti-ritualistic movement. I've tried to describe it before. The problem is that, especially among Christians, but to an extent among Islamists and others as well, you've got two movements. You've got the one that has the trappings, the fancy dress and things like that. It becomes ritualistic. And then you've got people that are simply practicing the religion the proper way, the way that it was meant to be practiced. The thing is that the Christian church has forsaken Jesus. The Islamic church has forsaken Muhammad. I mean, he's got his own problems, but whatever. The Judaistic church has forsaken Abraham. And so all these people are going to hell, actually. The low church movement is supreme. It's just that nobody follows it anymore. How very sad. Copium poppies. It took some effort to get Grok to say it, though. I can imagine. Although it's really good at image making. I will say that. JA666 U for you. I fart towards Mecca twice a day. Yes, exactly. We are a civil culture. That means that if somebody wants to blaspheme a religion, they should be able to do so. It does not matter what religion that is. I would simply point out that most people that practice religion at all don't even understand their own teachings. It's very, very sad. Again, there was that one Hindu dude in that one documentary that was practically crying because foreigners would come to India and they knew more about Hinduism than the Hindus did. And he had a problem with that. I can understand the pain. It's sort of like if I go to a Christian community, I know more about the Bible than they do. I know more scripture. I know more counterparts to it, like with the Book of Common Prayer and certain other works. And so they're going to be sad about that. They're going to be like, this fucking pagan knows more about our God than we do. There's probably a problem here. This is how you break the conditioning, by the way. A 2,000-year-old Roman inkwell found in Portugal contains a technological recipe that should not exist. Oh, this is fascinating scientific news. I love this. Apparently, the ancient Romans, and this is not in Rome proper, this is in the outlands, so this was somebody who was probably a diplomat or some shit like that. They were already making mixed ink. That is, that they would take black carbon and gall and fats, to preserve, the mix, and things like that, mix it together. And they were already making that sort of ink 2,000 years ago. Until recently, it was thought that this kind of ink really was maybe post-medieval, like Renaissance era, and that was basically the origin of the ink. Nope, it was made about 1,000 years before that by the ancient Romans. And I was thinking about the Romans earlier, and I was thinking about some of the technological things that they actually did. And a lot of people don't know about all of these things. They think ancient Rome, okay, you've got like the Colosseum, you've got the horse races, and, it was developed at the time, but ultimately it was practically Stone Age for the most part. Oh, hell no. They had wind-based pump systems for mining. They had water-based systems in the actual aqueducts for grain milling and stuff like that. They were very, very close to achieving what we would consider effectively the Industrial Revolution. This was 2,000 years ago. They were far more advanced than people today know. And we think of them as part of antiquity. They were definitely a much more modern version of antiquity at the very least. That's the least that we could say for them. They're milling grain using wind power. They're draining out mines using wind power and possibly pumps that were horse-based. It's not entirely sure. But this has been discovered. We know that this happened, among other things. Now we're finding that they were making modern ink as well. These people were effectively on par with probably what the United States would have been in the early 1900s, or maybe the late 1800s, somewhere around there. And all of that knowledge was lost. It was rediscovered in part, ironically, since we've been speaking about it, by Arabs, actually, with the so-called Muslim Revolution, or the Arab Renaissance, which never actually happened, but, It is a mythology. They were simply rediscovering things. Spider Eternal, can you give a recap on your position on left libertarians being a myth? Making some jam bean right now, by the way. Yeah, making some jam and bean. That's what I'm talking about. But, yes, left libertarianism does not exist. It's impossible. How can you believe in redistributing money from person to person without using the state and making it more authoritarianism in the process, without using the state to actually do the redistribution? It's not really possible unless you're talking about private charity. I suppose in a very closely knit, localized religious group or something, you could have something approximating left libertarianism. Like, yeah, we don't care that you're masturbating or something like that. And, here's some food. That's about the closest that you can get. I suspect that the Amish probably approximate that as quickly as possible. But left libertarianism really cannot exist. In order to have libertarianism, you must have a straightforward market economy. It is not possible to have a redistribution network unless it's within the context of private charity. So I would say that a privately charitable group of people that are probably insular, they can achieve something approximating it, but beyond that, you're not going to get anywhere. Connect 200. Dark Ages were dark ages since knowledge was lost. Yes, indeed. Should I bother getting to those news articles? I mean, it is Friday. I'm a little bit on the tired side, you may have noticed. I'm a little bit low energy today. Uh, Big Cat 28. Why don't liberals give 80% of their wealth away? It seems pretty hypocritical if they're anti-wealth. Yeah, they're never going to give jack shit away. They want you to give jack shit away. They want you to be the one that pays out. They don't want to be the ones that do it themselves. NIMBYism, talked about it before. King of Biltong. Oh, anytime that Anton arrives, of course, we've got a duty. Premium Biltong from Biltong USA. High protein, keto friendly, no additives. US sourced beef, authentic South African flavor. Get some now at BiltongUSA.com. Use code STICKS for 10% off. A good idea, by the way. Don't just get the Biltong. Get a packet of the Bovrite. Thank me later. Too salty, he will say. Not salty enough, I will say. Now people are talking about spiritual concepts in the chat. Not a surprise. A new analysis suggests kissing on the lips may have evolved 21 million years ago. Yes, indeed. Not only did our hominid ancestors kiss one another on the lips, but chimpanzees and bonobos and so forth. That one is fairly straightforward. Bonobos, I mean, whenever they get into a fight, they start having an orgy in order to prevent the fighting from continuing. They're a little bit weird. It would probably be better if human beings evolved from bonobos as opposed to chimpanzees. Can you imagine a world in which war did not exist? Because any time that two nations came into conflict, everyone just dropped their pants and fucked each other? Sounds good to me. I have no problem with that. It'd be way better than the chimpanzee method. But the chimps also kiss one another. There is no biological impetus for this, by the way. The spreading of disease, the non-ritualistic purpose of the behavior and so forth, none of these things actually make sense. Unless you frame it in the context of simply two or more, in some cases, individuals just bonding with each other. It's basically a bonding practice, in my opinion. It could be that it became a sort of pseudo-ritualism, but it doesn't appear to, because we're talking 20 million years ago. We're not talking about modern apes or certainly hominids or archaic Homo sapiens or anything like that. It turns out that it's actually pretty common among many of our upstarts that led to the human race. Snakes bleed red. Where the fuck would Egyptians get an electric eel? Lol. Well, in the ocean, probably. Pretty sure that they exist in the Mediterranean, if I remember correctly. I'm gonna look that up. Do they exist in the Mediterranean? No, they do not live in the Mediterranean. Okay, I was wrong on that one. If one managed to come across from South America, though, into South Atlantic waters, it's entirely possible they could have obtained one. By the way, can you imagine? You're in ancient Rome, and now there's this weird, fish that looks like a snake that can generate electricity. Can you imagine how fascinating that would be? Bring it to the court and tell them, look, I've got something real special. I can only imagine the amount of gold you would have gotten for that. This happened all of the time, by the way, in ancient history. Because anything that was out of the ordinary, I mean out of the ordinary that was locally, classed, typically commanded a very high price. So sometimes, like, they would take narwhal horns. They were taking these in, like, the Viking period. And they would brand them as unicorn horns. And if you had a couple of those, a royal court would pay an enormous price for these horns. So it didn't matter that you were out there for 4 months. You got much, much more pay than you would otherwise get over a similar period of time. And so they just sold those. They sold various meats. And, of course, I believe carrier falcons were specifically prized. Those were considered the birds of loyalty, and they would sell them actually to like kings and lords and stuff like that, get enormous sums of money. They took them from Greenland, Iceland, places like that, and then they sold them down further south, and they were extremely, extremely prized. So were the narwhal horns, among other things. Walrus tusks and stuff like that, because people back in Europe, they'd never seen any of these things. So the handful of explorers that were hardy enough to actually venture out, they found all of this cool stuff that wasn't actually available. Well, that means that it's artificially limited as far as its availability, which means that it's far, far more expensive. Anyone who was under at least lesser nobility status was not getting a narwhal horn. Pretty funny, actually. My Dixie wrecked pterodactyls. Yeah, those died a little bit before humans were around. Yeah, they would take the horn and they would grind a little bit of it up and they would make it into medicine, or they would use it for decoration. It sort of depended what the person who bought it wanted. It was considered highly medicinal, along with, today, tiger fangs and tiger skulls and stuff like that. It's a fascinating subject, actually, when you think about it. They found all sorts of animals and stuff in the New World when they first contacted it that did not exist in Europe or Eurasia in general. And so they thought, oh, obviously, there's something medicinal or magical or something like that about this animal. Same with plants. They highly prized tobacco. Till counterblasted tobacco, which was by, if I remember, King James himself. It's an interesting work. He also wrote Demonology, actually. Primal Wanderwolf. Remember when the Emperor Justinian put a bounty on the infamous whale Porphyrius? Crazy funny. I haven't actually seen that story. Let me look that up. I'll look that up too. Huh. I'm gonna have to look into that story. Porphyrius was a large whale that harassed and sank ships in the waters near Constantinople in the 6th century. Active for over 50 years, Porphyrios caused great concern for Byzantine seafarers. Emperor Justinian made it an important matter to capture it, though he could not come up with a way to do so. Porphyrios eventually met its end when it beached itself near the mouth of the Black Sea and was attacked and cut into pieces by a mob of locals. I'm going to have to look into this story. Thank you very much for bringing it to my attention. I had not heard it before. That reminds me of Lake Monster Traditions. If you have not read that book, if you're into maritime stuff of a weird nature, read Lake Monster Traditions by Claude Gagnon and Michel Muerger. It's a Canadian work, actually. It goes into lakes and rivers within the United States and Canada, as well as down into Latin America, and to an extent into Europe, actually. Fascinating work. Fully footnoted, lots and lots of references. You can use that as one hell of a springboard, by the way, to research this subject. It's probably the best singular work on the subject that's ever been made. I've got a copy. I think my daughter ripped the cover off at one point. Whoops. But, yeah, it's a great work. I didn't hear of that one, though. I wonder why they didn't include that within the work. I'll have to look into it. I can't really speak on subjects until I have enough information to do so. Just saying. I prefer not to be ignorant. Yes, now everyone's talking about Champ. In my opinion, Champ is the result of largely misidentification. Tourists come to Lake Champlain. They come from areas where fish are, a foot long or something like that. All of a sudden, they're on Lake Champlain in a rowboat. And a 12-foot sturgeon happens to, lunge at their boat or something like that. To them, this is a sea monster. They did not know that something that large could be in the lake. Sometimes they are not, they don't understand what a moose is. Moose will go into the water, and their head and their antlers will be sticking out, but the rest of them is submerged. Well, that's a sea monster. Sometimes it's a log, and that can become a sea monster too. I've seen videos of it myself. And I say this as a Vermonter, so I'm amenable to the concept of there being kind of sort of a champ. And here's what I think is happening. Most of the sightings, they're just misidentifications. It's a sturgeon, it's a moose, it's something else in the water, maybe it's a capsized boat, a log, who knows. In some of these cases, I think that it has to do with a specific species, because there have been sightings of sturgeons in Lake Champlain, which are considerably larger than what you would normally associate with lake sturgeon. Normally it's like 8 feet. Some of these look more like 15. I have a feeling that lake sturgeon did interbreed with the population at some time. That is, sea sturgeon, rather. I have a feeling that there was interbreeding. They got larger. They were capable of surviving in the originally brackish waters and slowly, transformed into freshwater sturgeon, creating a subspecies. This is not a monster. This is not something unique or paranormal. This is just a species, basically, a subspecies. I have a feeling that's probably what happened. So yeah, when people say that the sturgeon was longer than their boat, obviously an 8-foot sturgeon probably doesn't fit that description. If it's 15 feet long, it probably does. I have a feeling that they are in the lake. There are a limited number of them. Some of them will be smaller than others. It's not anything paranormal. It's not a demon. It's not a dragon. It's not a sea monster. It's simply a species that's kind of biologically out of place because of how Lake Champlain formed. It's nothing more than that. Big Cat, liberals or billionaires love taxes, yet very hypocritical, very uncharitable, except for Warren Buffett. It's very strange. I have noticed that. It's like you want the taxpayers to fund something. Many of those taxpayers, by the way, are like lower middle class or something like that. You want them to pay the money, but you don't want to pay it yourself. You want other peoples to be able to take migrants in, but you're not willing to do it yourself. J.K. Rowling fits into this description. Meissner flux is the animalism practiced by ancients of the Caucasus similar to the old Celtic traditions. In a shift to the natural world, a key to man's next step out of the political gambit called religion. I would say that it's similar in some ways, yeah. I think the Celtic traditions were a little bit more ritualistic. But animalism, or animism, I believe is what you're actually referring to. Yeah, that's as old as anything, basically. People have been doing that for millions of years. The idea was that there was sort of an energy and so forth, a spirit, a force that sort of interpenetrated things. I would point out, though, this is very, very similar to the concept of interpenetration that's promised by Christianity, Islam, and other so-called modern religions. It's basically the same thing when you think about it. It's very, very interesting, actually. Click, McClick. Nerd alert! I get the reference. This coffee smells like shit! This isn't coffee, it's tea, but, you know. Nerd alert! Anyone else watched Austin Powers? Danger's my middle name. I don't know. I'm just having fun at this point. This is now a Bantz stream, by the way. We're clearly not going to get to the rest of the news. Other than this one, David Marcus. Turns out 6'7" has a history that goes back to medieval times. You know how kids are saying 6'7" and then chuckling to themselves? This has happened several times in my experience. It's actually a Shakespearean reference that has to do with gambling. And I did not know this at first, but because it's linguistic in nature, I had to research it. Apparently, it's basically meaningless to the people that are saying it now, but originally it was a term that involved a dice game that predated craps, actually. And so 6'7" was apparently like an inauspicious number that you would bet, and people had a problem with it. And that's the use of the term. It's pretty funny. It's sort of like when young kids say, like, you know, I'm vibing or something like that. And like, you sound like my great-great-grandma, actually. You sound like you were born 100 years ago. And that term is not new, my dude. It wasn't even new to the hippies. Their fucking grandparents were using that term too. You can even see this in some of the programming of the time. Like if you watch Andy Griffith, you'll see an awful lot of references to old-time occultism from 20, 30 years before. And also to herbal medicine with that one hillbilly chick that Andy Griffith really should have fucking married because, he was just a retard and, he married the teacher instead. That was a bad decision, by the way, in my opinion. I would have married the hillbilly girl. Just saying. Just saying. Copium Poppies. Vid request. Oh, alright, let me check this out. Alright, we'll put this on. It's from the Copium Poppies. Therefore, we don't have to worry about copyright complaints. Just a sec. Let me get this link out. We will play your video. We will do the thing. It's just a matter of getting this actually situated. It can be a little bit difficult sometimes. Present. Video file. Well, we don't want a video file. That's not what we want. Let's share the screen. That's not the right one. The hell did it go? No, it's not that one either. I'm going to try to grab this out and play it for everyone. Just give me a second, because, again, I'm not 100% on this, sort of thing. Okay, there we go, I think. There we go. Hopefully people will be able to hear it. And hopefully I'm not sharing anything crazy. Apologize. This sucks. Copium Poppies kick ass. If you don't like it, then go listen to some pop rock or something. Yeah, that's really good, actually. I can't really see chat, though, because I've got this open in 2 different tabs. That's really good, but I have to stop it, because otherwise there's no way for me to have 3 tabs open to actually pay attention to chat. And also now I'm echoing, so I'll take care of that. Yeah, that's pretty good. So we've got some copium. Progress has been made after threatening to file a chargeback against X for our year premium subscription via appeal and our management publicly posting about doing so. Our account is restored. However, we are locked out in an attempt to coerce us into deleting the post. I think I already talked about that one. Oh yeah, it went up back to the top. Sorry about that. You're fine with video reacting when you talk over them or stop and comment and rewind and start again. It's transformative. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a good video. It's a good music video. If only you made, like, straightforward instrumentals, I could be a vocalist as well. Just saying. Haha, Sepelish. This helps men 45 plus reignite their relationships. Trackdoc.com. By the way, don't take that link. That is spam. Just in case anyone was wondering, that's an example of a spam. Yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, most of your music's been good anyway, so, you know, it's not a surprise. All you have to do is consult with me. I can promote it. Anyways, I'm going to go offline. I'm going into the weekend. I do not need to live stream for the next couple of days. There's going to be all sorts of crazy shit happening over the Thanksgiving, season. I'm not even sure exactly what day we're doing Thanksgiving on, so to speak. But there is a turkey, and I will be doing the squishy squash and the cranberries and so forth. So I'll make sure to photograph everything at the very least. Yes, but I really do need to rest at the moment. And then we will get back to work on Monday. There will be a Thanksgiving stream. Again, I'll try to announce it depending on which day it is. I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to try. This can be a big problem. Scheduling things is more problematic when you're working with 2 or 3 other people. In my particular case, there are 3 other people. So it can be a little bit difficult to tell you exactly when I'm going to be doing things. But I'll get that out to everyone before I do it. Right now, basically, I just want to eat some Chinese food or something like that. There's some snacks around. I can always eat them. Chips and dip and things of that nature. And maybe I'll do my British references or some, Antonio and Mario fairly soon. I was wondering what my itinerary held. Since it's Friday, technically I can just do some of my writing. I did a couple of entries the other night. I posted a couple of them online, actually. That was funny. I can do a couple of those, and then maybe I can get to something else. I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to have to take a look. It's only 1:10, so there's plenty of time. Copium Poppies. That was in reference to doing music video reactions. There are a ton of music reaction videos, big ones even. Yeah, I would never want to devolve into that sort of thing. I'll do musical reactions once in a while or something like that, but right now I think I'm going to go offline. Unfortunately, I would rather spend more time with all of y'all. Trust me, there will be a much longer live stream in the fairly immediate future. But right now, I have to go offline. I do have to eat something at some point, and I definitely have literary work to do. So, take care. I'm going to go and collate the videos.